Good evening, peeps. Right, let's get straight into this video. The rematch between Povetkin and Dillian White is now off. I'm sure all of you guys know that by now. Povetkin tested positive for COVID-19. You know, the funny thing is, when I first saw the headline, it just read, Povetkin tested positive, and I just assumed it was a PD. So thank God it's, well, I say thank God. Let's hope it's nothing too serious, but thank God it's not a PD and it is COVID-19. So that fight is off. That fight was supposed to take place November 21st. So yeah, they are talking about it. I think Eddie Hearn released a statement saying they are trying to reschedule it for early next year. We'll see. That fight might never happen. It might never happen again. I mean, who knows, right? There have been fights that have been cancelled and haven't happened again in recent times. You think of something like, I say recent times, but you think of who? CHISORA Parker, for example. That fight was cancelled because Parker was injured. Right, we never hear about Parker CHISORA again. So it might not ever happen again. Let's talk about options for Dillian White. I put on the thumbnail, let's make White Fury. We'll talk about that in a minute. This isn't no clickbait. That's what I would like to see. The likelihood of that happening is probably zero, but that's what I would like to see. That's what I think makes a bit of sense, but we'll get there in a second. Let's talk about realistic options in terms of what can happen for Dillian White. Now, first and foremost, it's a pay-per-view card, so the whole card could be scrapped. There's a couple of options. The whole card could be scrapped, or it could just turn into a regular Saturday night fight card. That's two of the options. If it has to be a pay-per-view event and Eddie Hearn can't find a suitable pay-per-view opponent, then the whole fight card would be scrapped. If Dillian White still wants to fight, but will fight anyone, so just someone in the top 30, 40, which isn't a pay-per-view worthy opponent, then it could be a regular Saturday night. It could be. I would like to think that it's 2.5 weeks, if I'm honest with you. That's not long at all, is it? But I'd like to think they could find someone suitable to keep this still on as a pay-per-view event in terms of us seeing Dillian White against someone of note. I don't want it to be pay-per-view. I just want to see Dillian White in there against someone that makes sense. Who is out there that makes sense that can fight on 2.5 weeks notice? I mean, Derek Chisora has put his name forward, and we just saw Derek Chisora in, I was going to say a bruising contest against Usyk. It wasn't very bruising. I mean, I've seen Derek Chisora in bruising contests. That wasn't it. He's ready to fight. I don't know how medical suspensions work, but surely after a 12-round fight, you have to take some form of medical suspension. So I'll be shocked if he is allowed to fight. If it was a month ago, then, I mean, yeah, right, fair dues, it could work. I think Derek Chisora would be given the green light. The fact that you fought on the weekend and you got kind of bust up a little bit in that fight, I doubt that's going to happen. So as much as Derek Chisora and David Haye campaigning for the fight, I just don't see how that makes sense. If it was Derek Chisora, it would stay as a pay-per-view event. It would stay as a pay-per-view event. I can't remember any of the undercard, but just Chisora versus Dillian White isn't going to be free on a Saturday night, unfortunately, people. It just ain't happening. Another man that keeps putting his name forward for every fight, and I can't understand how he's not got a fight yet or anything on the horizon, is Michael Hunter. Michael Hunter wants to fight. Again, he started his campaign to get the fight. If I'm Dillian White, I don't fight Michael Hunter. I want to see Michael Hunter, Dillian White. But if I'm Dillian White, it's quite a big risk to change opponent like that. Povetkin, I think, is a better technical boxer possibly than Michael Hunter, but he doesn't have Michael Hunter's aggression and speed. Well, he's got a bit of aggression, but you know what I mean? Hunter's just different. It's different. And I feel like if you've been training for the same opponent for 7 or 8 months, let's not forget they fought in August. He was training prior to that for Povetkin. And that's been your sole focus. Now to kind of switch up mentally and go to a Michael Hunter, it's a bit of a risk. I would like to see Michael Hunter get a proper camp for something like this. Dillian White versus Michael Hunter for me is a big, big fight. It's a fight I would love to see, but I think Michael Hunter, as much as he just wants an opportunity, I don't think Michael Hunter can get as fit as he needs to really compete with Dillian White. Not in 2.5 weeks, especially if he's just been sort of ticking boxes in the gym, just sort of doing nothing really, right? He's not been in a camp. So I don't want to see Michael Hunter versus Dillian Whyte just because it's only 2.5 weeks notice. I want to see a Michael Hunter, a 3-month fight camp against Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte's been in a good fight camp, right? And he's in tip-top shape right now. And I just don't want this to be Michael Hunter's opportunity, this on 2.5 weeks notice. In saying that, sometimes you just got to roll the dice. We saw Andy Ruiz do it when he fought AJ, when he took that fight on short notice back in, when was that fight now? I can't remember, June 1st, July 1st. He took it on short notice. His numbers came up. You never know what can happen. You never know what can happen. So Michael Hunter will take it. He's campaigning for it. If he does take it, again, the fight card can stay as it is. It's a pay-per-view event, people. It is. Again, I know people are not going to be happy with this, but it is. Michael Hunter flying over to fight Dillian Whyte is a pay-per-view event. I would prefer to see Michael Hunter versus Dillian Whyte than POVETKIN Dillian Whyte. So for me, it's a pay-per-view event, and I can understand why Matchroom would do it. It feels like I'm campaigning for pay-per-view. I'm not. Trust me, I'm not. Please. I'm just saying I can understand how Matchroom and Sky would make that a pay-per-view event. In terms of who else is out there, most other people have fights lined up. I'm trying to think of other names in that kind of top 10, top 15. Most guys have fights lined up that they really do. I'll tell you someone that hasn't officially retired who would give Dillian, I keep saying that because they both remind me of each other, who would give Dillian Whyte very good rounds, and it could just be a Saturday night fight rather than a pay-per-view. Bryant Jennings. Bryant Jennings is over here. He's in shape. He's been sparring Derek Chisora. He's now sparring Anthony Joshua. He's always in shape. Very healthy guy anyway. When I say kind of doesn't have to get ready because he stays ready, he is a perfect opponent if they just want to keep the card intact but make it just a normal Saturday night rather than the pay-per-view. That is, I think, a perfect opponent for Dillian Whyte. And I think Dillian Whyte would accept it. Bryant Jennings is a tough fight. It's a tough fight. He'll give Dillian Whyte good rounds. Look, he could cause the upset. Dillian Whyte just got knocked out. Could cause the upset. But that would be a good option as well. My ideal option in a very fantasy world is Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte. That's my ideal option. Tyson Fury is trying to negotiate with Agit Kabayel. That fight hasn't been signed and sealed yet. It hasn't been announced. Tyson Fury is fighting December 5th. Dillian Whyte was supposed to fight November 21st. Both of these guys are in camp. Both of these guys are in shape. Right? I mean, there is no one taking a fight on short notice. They're in shape. I mean, I'm sure Dillian Whyte would like to, would happily, I say like to, he'll bite your hand off for the opportunity to fight Tyson Fury December 5th. He'll bite your hand off. Literally, like, what? You know what I mean? Some people are saying he's not deserving of it. I'm not talking about deserving of it. What would you rather see, people? Would you rather see Kabayel versus Tyson Fury, Takam versus Tyson Fury, or Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury? Exactly. So forget all the BS people are talking about, oh, he's not deserving it, he's coming off a loss. What would you rather see? Exactly. I'd rather see that all day long. Eddie Hearn has teased, saying it's only a phone call away. Look, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And this is what's quite sad about boxing. The fact I'm saying it's not going to happen, when really and truly it should happen. Why can't it happen? Well, it can't happen because I personally don't think that Tyson Fury would accept the fight. I don't think he'd accept it. As much as obviously, you know, he is the Gypsy King, lineal champ, etc. I don't think he's going to accept it. And plus, there's going to be a big problem as to where the fight takes place. Let's be honest. I mean, if you're Eddie Hearn and Sky, then obviously you're going to want it on Sky Sports box office. If you're Tyson Fury, obviously you're the champ. Dillian Whyte has come off a loss. He should have to come and fight on your platform, BT Sports. And I agree. If Dillian Whyte wants this fight, if Eddie Hearn wants to make this fight, if David Haye wants to make this fight has to be on BT Sports box office. It has to be. Dillian Whyte has to go over and fight. Fact. And if I'm Dillian Whyte, I don't even argue with that. You've got a chance to fight Tyson Fury, the #1 heavyweight in the world. And guess what? You get a chance to fight for the WBC heavyweight crown. Something you've been begging for over a year. I'm getting excited. I don't know why it ain't going to happen. I know it ain't gonna happen. You know it ain't gonna happen. So let's be realistic here. Realistically, if the fight card is still on, look, we don't know if the whole thing's scrapped. I'm sure Eddie Hearn's working around the clock trying to find a suitable opponent. Realistically, and I think realistically, look, the two guys I want are Michael Hunter and Bryant Jennings, if I'm honest with you. Bryant Jennings, because he's over here, he's been sparring, I know he's in decent shape. I want that, and I also want it because for me, Bryant Jennings doesn't represent a pay-per-view fight. It represents a normal Saturday night fight. Will Dillian Whyte accept that? Because that obviously means a massive reduction in his money, massive reduction, right? It's not pay-per-view and there's no crowd. If it has to stay pay-per-view, then Michael Hunter. Michael Hunter would be my #1 choice for this to happen on pay-per-view, if it has to stay pay-per-view on Sky. If Dillian Whyte has to cross over to BT, then Tyson Fury. Look, so those are the options. Bryant Jennings, Michael Hunter, Tyson Fury for me. People have spoken about the likes of Andy Ruiz getting an opportunity, maybe even Tony Yoka. I don't know what he's got planned. That's just not going to happen. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. Michael Hunter should be able to happen. Bryant Jennings is over here. I think he's a free agent, just because I spoke to him in Saudi Arabia, and he was talking about, like, this is it, he's done, he's retiring, doesn't need it anymore, doesn't get something from it. This could be his final hurrah. His final hurrah. So I think Bryant Jennings should get it. I would like Michael Hunter to get it. And my dream would be to see Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury. Notice that I called it my dream because I don't expect it to happen. Peace.